Because you've got to make a move which will put yourself out of your own control into the control of a better. If you don't believe in the Christian kind of a God, you can believe in the Hindu kind of a God, who is your inner self. You see, you've got a lower self, which you can call your ego. That's that little scoundrelous fellow that's always out for me. But behind the ego, there is the Atman, the inner self, the inward light, as Quakers would call it, the real self, the spirit, which is substantially identical with God. So you've got to meditate in such a way that you identify with your higher self. Now, how do you do that? Well, you start by watching all your thoughts very carefully, watching your feelings, watching your emotions, so that you begin to build up a sense of separation between the watcher and what is watched, so that you are, as it were, no longer carried away by your own stream of consciousness. You remain the witness, impassive, impartial, suspending judgment and watching it all go on. That seems to be something like progress. At least you're taking an objective view of what is going on. You are beginning to be in a position to control it. But just wait a minute. Who is this self behind the self, the watching self? Can you watch that one? It's interesting if you do, because you find out, of course, that this is just as the problem of grace is nothing more than a transposition of the first problem. How am I to be unselfish? By my own power. It becomes, how am I to get grace by my own power? So in the same way, we find that the watching self, or the observing self, behind all our thoughts and feelings, is itself a thought. That is to say, when the police enter a house in which there are thieves, the thieves go up from the ground floor to the first floor. When the police arrive on the first floor, the thieves have gone up to the second, and so to the third, and finally out to the roof. And so when the ego is about to be unmasked, it immediately identifies with the higher self. It goes up a level, because the religious game is simply a refined and highbrow version of the ordinary game. How can I outwit me? How can I one-up me? So, if I find, for example, that in the quest for pleasure, the ordinary pleasures of the world, food, sex, power, possessions, all this becomes a drag, and I think, no, it isn't there, so I go in for the arts, literature, poetry, and I absorb myself in those pleasures, and after a while, they aren't the answer, so I go to psychoanalysis, you see. And then I found out that's not the answer. I go to religion. But I'm still seeking what I was seeking when I wanted candy bars. I want to get that goodie. Only I see now that, of course, it's not going to be a material goodie. All material goodies fall apart. Maybe there's a spiritual goodie. Not going to fall apart. But in that quest, the quest is not different from the quest for the candy bar. Same old story, only you've refined the candy bar and made it abstract and holy and blessed and so on. So it is with the higher self. The higher self's your old ego. And you sure hope it is eternal, indestructible and all-wise. Then the great problem is how to get that higher self working. How does it make any difference to what you do and what you think? I know all kinds of people who've got this higher self going, practicing their yoga, but they're just like ordinary people, sometimes a little worse. And they can fool themselves. They can say, for example, well, my point of view in religion is very liberal. I believe that all religions have divine revelation in them. But I don't understand the way you people fight about it. You fight, say that we Jehovah's Witnesses have the real religion. Others say, well, we Roman Catholics have it. And the Muslims say, no, it is in the Quran. And this is the right way. And somebody else gets up, and he may be a rather highbrow Catholic, and say, well, God has given the Spirit through all the traditions, but ours is the most refined and mature. And then somebody comes along and says, well, as I said, they're all equally revelations of the divine. And in seeing this, of course, I'm much more tolerant than you are. You see how that game is going to work? Yeah, I could take this position. Supposing you regard me as some sort of a guru. And you know how gurus hate each other. They're always putting each other down. And I could say, well, I don't put other gurus down. See, that outwits all of them. See, we're always doing that. We're always finding a way to be one up. And by the most incredibly subtle means. So you see that, you see? And you say, I realize I'm always doing that. Now tell me, how do I not do that? I say, why do you want to know? Well, I'd be better that way. Yeah, but why do you want to be better? You see, the reason you want to be better is the reason why you aren't. Shall I put it like that? We aren't better because we want to be. Because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because all the do-gooders in the world, whether they're doing good for others or doing it for themselves, are troublemakers. On the basis of kindly let me help you or you'll drown, said the monkey, putting the fish safely up a tree. We white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, British, German, American, have been on a rampage for the past 100 or more years to improve the world. We have given the benefits of our culture, our religion, our technology to everybody, except perhaps the Australian Aborigines. And we have insisted that they receive the benefits of our culture, even our political styles, our democracy. You better be democratic, or we'll shoot you. And having conferred these blessings all over the place, we wonder why everybody hates us. See, because sometimes doing good to others, and even doing good to oneself, is amazingly destructive. Because it's full of conceit. How do you know what's good for other people? How do you know what's good for you? If you say you want to improve, then you ought to know what's good for you. But obviously you don't. Because if you did, you would be improved. So we don't know. It's like the problem of geneticists, which they face today. I went to a meeting of geneticists not so long ago where they gathered in a group of philosophers and theologians and said, now look here, we need help. We now are on the verge of figuring out how to breed any kind of human character we would want to have. We can give you saints, philosophers, scientists, great politicians, anything you want. Just tell us, what kind of human beings ought we to breed? So I said, how will those of us who are genetically unregenerate make up our minds what genetically generate people might be. Because I'm afraid very much that our selection of virtues may not work. It may be like, for example, this new kind of high-yield grain which is made and which is becoming ecologically destructive. When we interfere with the processes of nature and breed efficient plants and efficient animals, there's always some way in which we have to pay for it. And I can well see that eugenically produced human beings might be dreadful. We could have a plague of virtuous people. Do you realize that? Any animal considered in itself is virtuous, it does its thing, but in crowds they're awful. Like a crowd of ants or locusts on the rampage. They're all perfectly good animals, but it's just too much. And I could imagine a perfectly pestiferous mass of 1 million souls.
Still fall the April rain and the bad
So I said to these people, look, there's the only thing you can do. Just be sure that a vast variety of human beings is maintained. Don't please breed us down to a few excellent types. Excellent for what? We never know how circumstances...
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. John was living in Ocean Beach, California, with his girlfriend Julie, when he decided one day, hey Jewel, let's move up north to Northern California, where the air is clear and the skies are blue and they have more traditional family values. What do you say, Jewel? So they loaded up their car and they moved up north to the Santa Cruz Mountains near the Valentine Winery, into a one-bedroom trailer behind the bowling alley, 2 blocks from the supermarket, 1 more block to the south of Dick's Automotive. Dick's Automotive. Dick's Automotive. Dick's Automotive. John applied for a job at Dick's Automotive, and Dick came to the door and he said, tell me, Johnny boy, can you rotate the tires on a 72 Subaru? He said, no. Well then can you change the oil in a 76 Pinto? He said, no. Well, can you rebuild a Holly 4-barrel carburetor on a 69 Camaro with a big old Hurst shift rod? He said, no. Well, do you have a girlfriend with long, red, curly hair, creamy milk white thighs, big, full lips, biceps like Henry Rollins? And can she just scream like a hyena in the summer? And he said, yes. And Dick said, boy, then you're hired at Dick's Automotive. At Dick's Automotive. At Dick's Automotive. At Dick's Automotive. John studied real hard. He learned how to rotate the tires on a 72 Subaru. He learned how to change the oil in all the Pintos. And he learned how to rebuild that Holly 4-barrel carburetor on the 69 Camaro. And much more than that, he learned how to make love with his girlfriend Julie like a real man ought to. And Dick gave him his service stripes, and he said, there's a little old lady and her car's broken down up near the Valentine Winery. You gotta help her, man. Go, Sheba, go. So he sent him on his way. And about that time, Dick glued back in his dentures, glued back on his toupee, stood in front of the mirror and said, I feel sexy. I wonder what Julie's doing all alone in that trailer. I bet she's having trouble opening up a can of peaches right now. I'll bring along my blowtorch just to see if she needs help. So he hiked a block down the road to the 1-bedroom trailer behind the bowling alley, and he knocked on the door. Julie answered the door and she said, oh, hello, Dick. I was just having trouble opening up a can of peaches. Come on in. So he started up the blowtorch, and all the peach juice ran down his veins, and he poured it into the Tupperware that Julie used to sell in Ocean Beach. And he said, we're going on a picnic. 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 going on a picnic. We're going on a picnic. We're going on a picnic. So we loaded Julie into his 57 Chevy, and he drove her up right near the winery. Into the middle of the forest he took her, and he tied her up to a tree, cut half of her top down, and he said, stick out your tongue. And he put on 42.5 tabs of brown acid that he still had from his Woodstock days. Sprinkled a little peyote on her tongue, just for good measure. She saw all kinds of colors: lemon yellow, orange, cherry red, kaleidoscope eyes. The world was on fire. And about that time, there was a mommy deer walking through the forest with a baby deer. And Dick cut down Julie's arm, and he poured in some granola, and he mixed it up with strychnine poison, and he said, oh, come here, little dear. I have some food for you. Look at Julie. And the mommy deer said, oh, I better eat it first, because it could be poisonous, and my heart is much stronger than yours, child. But really, the mommy deer was just a glutton and wanted all the food. And the mommy deer stuck her little mommy snout into Julie's palm, and then licked it. And they said, oh, go ahead, eat some. But the mommy's heart was much stronger, and when the baby deer stuck her tongue into the palm of Julie's hand and licked, it died. Flat shoopy-doo-wah down. And the mommy deer died shortly thereafter. Zippity-doo-wah out on the ground. And Dick cut Julie down from the tree, and he looked at the dead deer at his feet, and he grabbed her around the neck, and he pushed his tongue right down her mouth, and he said, wow, nature's so bitchin'. Dick's automotive. Dick's automotive. Dick's automotive. Dick's automotive. Playing you silly freak. About that time, John was driving back down the road, feeling really good about helping that little old lady out. And he saw Dick's 57 Chevy parked on the side of the road. He said, wow, he could be in trouble. I better bring along a chainsaw, a blowtorch, and an ice pick just to see if he needs help. And then he said, whoa, that looks like the Afghan sweater that Julie's grandmother knitted us last summer in Ocean Beach. What's Julie doing here? And he hiked through the forest, and he saw the love of his life on a dirty brown piece of Berber carpet. Dick's dentures on the ground shattering, his toupee being carried off by the squirrels and cockroaches. And he saw red, and he started up a blowtorch. And he welded their bodies together, took an ice pick out of a secret manila envelope, stabbed him 57 times, started up a chainsaw, cut off Dick's ankle, put his foot right in his mouth and says, looks like you put your foot in your mouth one last time, Dickie boy. Then he looked at the dead deer at the feet, and he picked him up. He gave the mommy deer mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and to no avail. Mommy deer was dead. And he gave the baby deer mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and the baby deer came back to life. Charles Bronson had tears in his eyes, I guess, because nature had been vindicated. David Koresh was selling barbecued ribs on the side. The mommy deer still was dead. And he said, mommy dear, dear, alive. Mommy dear, dead. Baby dear, alive. Mommy dear, dead. Baby dear, alive. Mommy dear, dead. Baby dear, alive. Dick's automotive. 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 Dick's automotive.
Our need for different kinds of people changes. At one time, we may need very individualistic and aggressive people. At another time, we may need very cooperative, team-working people. At another time, we may need people who are full of interest in dexterous manipulation of the external world. At another time, we may need people who explore into their own psychology and are introspective.